What's the best evidence Christians give that Jesus rose from the dead? Hi, I'm Dr. Sean Nelson with Geeky Christian, and this is the place for curious Christians. Do you like hearing about evidence that backs up our faith? Then be sure to subscribe to my channel. Okay, so the entire Christian faith comes down to one event being true or not, and that event is Jesus' resurrection. Here are the top 5 reasons for the resurrection. Number 1, the detailed eyewitness testimony of the events. This is what they said happened. Jesus was arrested. He was beaten, whipped. They drove nails through his hands and feet. He then died by crucifixion. He was confirmed dead when they stabbed him with a spear. His body was wrapped in 75 pounds of cloth and sealed inside a tomb. 16 Roman soldiers guarding the tomb left their posts. The huge stone door was rolled away. He was seen alive by over 500 people. They heard him, touched him, saw him eat food, and work miracles. Number 2, these witnesses kept their testimony despite extreme persecution. At first, all the disciples were full of doubt and afraid. But then something happened. They were motivated to publicly share their faith. They put out of the synagogue, leave all, travel to distant lands, and spread their faith around the world. They were tortured and thrown in prison. Most faced death. Stephen was stoned. James was killed with a sword. Peter was crucified. But nobody, not one person, caved under pressure and confessed. We made it all up. Number 3. The Gospels are filled with self-incriminating testimony. Jesus called Peter Satan. Peter often spoke before thinking. All the disciples were dull of hearing. They were all really prideful and argued about who was the greatest. And all abandoned Jesus at his arrest. You just wouldn't say these things about yourself if you were making the story up. Number 4, extreme scoffers became extreme believers. Jesus' own brothers didn't even believe in him before his resurrection, but after his resurrection, they believed. In fact, they even became leaders in the church. The Apostle Paul was another scoffer. He was a very wealthy and powerful Jewish Pharisee who persecuted the church, but after claiming to see the risen Jesus, he became its biggest supporter. Number 5, Christianity started in the place where people were most familiar with the facts. If you were going to start a myth about the resurrection, you'd go as far away as possible from those who could disprove it. Now, Jesus was publicly crucified in Jerusalem, and that's exactly where the early church began. Here's the conclusion. There are only 4 possibilities regarding the resurrection of Christ. You could say it's a legend that crept in over time. But the problem with this view is legends take centuries to form, and the Gospels were written soon after the events they describe. You could argue the disciples lied intentionally. But what would motivate the disciples to lie? Wealth? Power? Fame? Most of them faced death, and all of them faced persecution. You could say they were deceived, and Jesus never actually died, but someone stole the body. The problem with this is Jesus was publicly crucified by professionals, and the tomb was guarded. The last option, it's the truth. Jesus' resurrection is an event in history that really did happen. And that, for Christians, makes the most logical sense. Now, if you made it this far, I must have said something you're interested in, so be sure to subscribe to my channel so you get more videos like this one.